Needed win for the US President Joe Biden. The Senate on Sunday passed a $430 billion bill designed to combat climate change, address healthcare costs and raise taxes on large corporations. The Senate approved the legislation known as the Inflation Reduction Act after a marathon two-day weekend session. It passed by a 51-50 party line vote, with Vice President Kamala Harris casting the tie-breaking vote.
It's an act to provide for reconciliation pursuant to Title II of S. Conres 14.
But at last, we have arrived.
Let's start here.
Bill, when passed, will meet all of our goals: fighting climate change, lowering health care costs, closing tax loopholes abused by the wealthy, and reducing the deficit. This is a major win for the American people, and a sad commentary on the Republican Party as they actively fight provisions that lower costs for the American family.
US President Joe Biden praised the Senate Democrats for passing the plan and acknowledged that it required many compromises. The president said the Senate Democrats sided with American families over special interests, voting to lower the cost of prescription drugs, health insurance and everyday energy costs, and reduce the deficit. The Inflation Reduction Act contains a series of proposals that Democrats have laboured for decades to push through, but it's a pared-down version of the Build Back Better Act. The bill mainly covers three broad categories that are health, climate and tax. The bill will now be presented in the House of Representatives for an expected Friday vote, and if it's passed, it'll then be forwarded on to the White House for President Biden's signature. Well, our New York correspondent Susan Tarani is joining us live from New York City to talk more about this. Well, Susan, significant legislation. What's been the reaction so far on this Senate approval?
Really significant, as you mentioned, Nick, something that the Democrats really needed at a time when the country has been responding to the Biden administration's policies, poll after poll. Just recently in an ABC poll during the weekend, as this bill was passed, 69% of Americans are saying that this administration is not doing a good job and inflation is a top concern. Reaction so far, we really, again, have only been hearing negative reaction, and that's just because, you know, bills like this really take time for it to really have an effect on the general public. But I think in terms of a political win, it is right now for this administration. It can tout on it going into the midterms, but whether or not, you know, the American people will see it there, its effects, even though it will be minor in short term, is just not going to be palatable. But definitely something that this party needed at a time when confidence in this administration was at an all-time low.
Susan, of course, this bill is not quite there yet. What are the expectations for the next few days? It heads to the House. Could we get an easy passage there, or could there be some complications thrown in?
Yeah, so this is going through a process of reconciliation, which is something that, you know, it bypassed the filibuster. The party in charge can really use this tactic to get a bill passed once a year, usually economic packages. The Democrats have been using this pretty often. So, yes, it does have some legal battles to go into. The Senate is going to, you know, try to be very tough on it, but ultimately it's expected to go through. It's not the trillions of dollars that the Democrats had ultimately hoped for, but it is a very large package. You know, it's not something that the Republicans wanted, but ultimately, you know, it kind of reminds you of back when President Obama passed Obamacare, and then in the midterms, the Democrats got wiped out. And then, you know, later on, 10 years down the line, when the Republicans wanted to get rid of Obamacare, they couldn't because Americans, for example, just, they liked it. You know, they were happy with it. You know, it kind of, the mood sort of seems similar to that. But I think that you will get a lot of backlash from the Senate as well. It's not going to be easy, but it'll probably pass and go through.
In terms of the Senate vote, obviously we saw it passing along party lines, the Republicans very much standing in unity against this bill. What's been the reaction from the Republican Party to what was presented before that?
The concern with this bill is it just gives so much authority to the government ultimately. And there is a part of this bill that gives $80 billion to the Internal Revenue Service, which is the IRS. It's the organization that collects taxes. Republicans and many Americans are weary of this organization. They're wondering why the IRS would want that much funding. They argue that ultimately it will go after ordinary Americans, middle-class Americans, and harass them. And that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is, giving so much government oversight on drug companies, and also putting so much emphasis on climate initiatives that seem so such a long shot at a time when America really needs to address other issues. It seems very idealistic, so to say, as opposed to, dealing with issues that need to be kitchen table issues, and passing a package that's billions of dollars at a time that the country is possibly facing a recession, and ultimately raising taxes because of that funding for the IRS in a time of recession is not a good idea. So it's that kind of giving the government so much authority ultimately that the Republicans are weary about.
Thank you, Susan. That was Susan Tarani joining us live from New York City.